Good evening, everyone. This is Ian, and with me tonight is Eric. How you doing, Eric?
I'm doing great, Ian.
Hey, and we have a special treat for you. We've got a lot of wonderful feedback on our open-handed videos, and we were thinking about scheduling another one of those. And in the process, I thought it might be interesting if we captured the deck building process and watching Eric kind of go through the things he thinks about when building a deck. And so that's what we're going to show for you guys tonight.
Yep. So actually, we sent out a little call just a couple hours ago and said, "Hey, does anybody got decks they want?" And we didn't get any. So for next time, if somebody wants to send us decks that have on stream, we would love to do that. But since we didn't, we were going to build it, and we started to build it, and we're like, "Hold on, this can be its own segment of its own, right?" So Ian had already gotten a blue-green deck, and I think last time we played with the red-green and blue-yellow combinations. And
Yep.
not that you have to do two colors, but that is pretty common. So today we're going to go through and do a red-yellow deck, and I had a little bit of an idea of what I wanted to do, and so Ian and I are going to talk through it, and he's going to help me make a better deck so that I can beat him when we play this game here in a little bit.
Exactly. We only want it to be fair. So, Eric, what are the first things that you um, think about when starting to build a brand new deck? Because if I'm a new person jumping into the game, I'm probably first drawn to just what hero do I think looks cool. But after you've played a little while, what are some of the things that you think about when wanting to start a brand new deck?
I mean, starting with a hero is not a bad idea, or two heroes or something like that. I think that's like totally legit. But the other side is if there's a couple cards that you think are really good or synergize with a hero. I mean, a core. When I start with a deck, I almost think of four heroes to start with, right? And there might be two heroes, and then the other two aren't as important or something like that. But I want a core deck, and I don't worry about the last two heroes like at all. That's like for later and figuring out what else the deck can do. But I think what we're going to do here today a little bit, and what a lot of people like to do, is like two main heroes,
Mm-hmm.
and then two more controlling things and more two aggressive type things. And there's places to fudge in that, but I think that's a great place to start, and I think that's where I'm going to start today. And for my inspiration today, partly because our friend Tim Bunn is going to have to defend his King of the Dome tomorrow with Kumaya, I've enjoyed Kumaya, and people have been using her aggressively, but I kind of like her other abilities and want to see that work. So I'm going with her and her teammate that came out at the same time was Shadris, and they have some synergistic things that I want to show off, and hopefully we can build a deck around that.
All right, I think that's going to be really cool. So your two mains are going to be Kamaya and Shadrius.
Right. So unless
Excellent.
something really weird happens, and probably today, no matter what happens, I'm going to do it. Like after I play a long time, I might get into situations where I don't always use these. But basically, I'm going to put all my cards that I want to see every time on these two guys. They're going to come no matter what happens because they've just got the good cards, and maybe they're not the perfect heroes for whatever I have to face, but they'll also have the good cards, and I'll just expect to bring them every time.
Okay, so that leads me to a really good question. In deck building, do I need to go into it thinking my deck is a control deck, my deck is a kill deck, or can I be a little more well rounded and kill if I need to, control if I need to? What are your thoughts there?
So I think for every four heroes, you want to know what victory conditions they can possibly win at. So I don't think you have to say, hey, I'm controller, I'm kill. But if you have four heroes and you can't say they can win at like these three victory conditions, like if you can't identify any victory conditions that they're going to actually be able to excel at, and Nexus is a fine victory condition, right? That's always there. But if you can't identify at least one, then you've got real problems. And I think you want to have them identified at, probably, three or four at the minimum. And then, some of them can go even higher, right?
Excellent. All right. Well, let's jump in here. So we've got our two heroes. So are you going to start piling in some cards for these people?
Yeah, so let's start there. And so what do we have here? We have a smoke screen. So while Kumaya is in line of sight towards any friendly illusion, enemy heroes adjacent to her have their line of sight reduced by one. So this is kind of cool because you can win control points that people didn't expect to, kind of like the Ekrit thing. But it has a pretty heavy cost of you have to have people with illusions, which we already have one guy over here that's going to have a helpful illusion, Shadris. But we probably need at least one other Niptune hero to get consistent value out of this. You don't have to necessarily have two, but I think it's probably best there. And then the other side, the burning sensors, I'm going to use it maybe, but I am not building towards that. I know there's other people that use the flip deck stuff, but I'm going to focus more on the smoke screen stuff, the fact that she has one armor, and so that's kind of how I'm going to build her. And on the flip side, we've got this guy, and he is a beefy tank, but also When Shadris becomes exhausted, he may push target adjacent marked hero 1 hex and apply slow to them. So this means that we need to find a way to get marks onto people. But if we do, we can push them. And so this means if they're even 2 away from a control point, and Shadris comes over and pushes them 1, and then Kumaya comes over and stands next to them, all of a sudden they were 2 away, and now they cannot contribute control that round. So that's the dream right now, right? Is to really make it difficult for them to stay in control. And then both having armor is great, and then his other ability of protecting stuff, that might come into play. I'm not going to, dismiss it as much as I am the burning sensor, but I'm happy to have that. So that said, what do we identify here? So these kind of seem more control-y, but I'm going to have people that can make it attack, so I'm not going to just go all 0s and -1s. But the one thing that I identified right away was I want a way to mark these heroes, and maybe I can't always get Kumaya or whoever my other hero is in there, so I'm going to start with on Shadris, and since they're both main, it doesn't really matter at this point, but I want to do Decree of Krumo. So apply mark to target hero.
Yeah, I think that's
1,
a really
2,
good start.
3.
Now, on the same token as that with Kumaya and needing illusions, do you also maybe want to include the Niptune card to allow a friendly Niptune hero to worship?
I am a fan of Whispers of Niptune, so especially with these new rules. Now, Shadris' illusion doesn't actually give any other yellow guys stuff on his team, but this really makes me, because I have this card in here, is going to make me want to look for those other Niptune heroes that have fancy powers, because these things can be very tricky when they come at instant speed, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, Kenwi's going to get to move the guy 1, or you get an extra armor from a Kuti or something like that. So
yeah, it's going to be really cool.
Alrighty. So I've got now 6 1-drops, and not everybody agrees with me, but I get very nervous as I get more and more 1-drops in my deck. So I might be at the limit of where I want 1-drops wise. Now, you don't have to have a fair range, but I hate having less than a third of my deck as 3s.
Now, this is because if you need to lead, take the lead action, and you need to lead from the top of your deck, leading with a 1 is a little frightening, right?
Yeah, that's the reason I don't like 1s. But the reason I want at least a third of my deck as 3s is because I know that I'll have to lead from hands at times, and if I don't have any 3s in my hands, it's going to be real bad. If I have a dome problem or I have a lane that I just really need a 3 on, if I don't have enough 3s in my deck, it just makes me very nervous. So it's actually interesting. If there's more 1s in my deck, it actually makes me want to put more 3s in my deck, because I know I'll be leading from hand even more than if I'm doing one of those things that has all 2s and 3 mana cards.
Well, and let's be honest. I mean, the 3 mana cards are really some of the most impactful cards in the game. And, I would think most games probably get to round 3. So you're going to get to play these cards as well. And so I'm in kind of the same camp as you and wanting to include several 3s in my deck, just because when I get a chance to play these, they are very, very impactful.
Yep. So let's look at our options here. And so I'm kind of looking to put 6 of them in, at least to start with. And so at first blush, I love Soul Scream. It's better on mages, and I think if we have some aggressive stuff, I will probably put that on some of the mages. I have that in the back of my head. Twister Souls, I think, is an underrated card here. I like these types of cards that people don't play with a lot. I like to have at least 1 in my deck, right? Because they don't see it coming always. And 3-drops, I cannot stress to you enough how if you think it's sometimes useful, putting a 3-drop in, because you can always lead with it. Like, it's never a dead card.
Yep.
So, these 3 cards that are like, well, that's kind of situational. Yes. But, I've seen ganks that just win games. And so, sure, maybe you lead with them 80% of the time or 90% of the time. But when they do, they come in great. And if not, hey, it's a lead 3. It's the same as any other lead 3. So, Refract is a fun card. I'm going to start with 1 copy of a Refract. I'm going to start with 1 copy of Twister of Souls. I am pretty sure Windblast is just an amazing card, and I'm going to go ahead and put the whole 3 of them into my deck.
Yeah, I am in agreement there. Windblast is just always a good card. It can hit minions, which I think is probably the most impactful thing, and sometimes you get a sneaky little damage in on some heroes there, but being able to wipe out 4 minions when needed is just so good.
Yeah, and now with pillars and illusions being better, and then being able to hit that too. I mean, yes, Windblast is, and sometimes it saves a lane for you. I mean, there's many reasons that it's a great card. So the other card that I think is above the curve of these guys is probably Unstoppable, and so I probably want a handful of Unstoppables in my deck. I'll go ahead and put one in now to get to my 6 cards that I said I wanted as the 3 drops. So I have that at this point, and that has filled up my Shadris. So I have 6 more spots, so I can add more 3s. I have no problem adding more 3s. I could add more 1s, but I'm probably not going to. I'm just going to go and look at 2s now and look for stuff that I think is cards I always want to see. And so when I look at these 2 drops, man, my eyes go to Nightmares Incarnate as an amazing card. Redirect is also very good. Time Warp is another one I like. That has the drawback of being -1, so some decks it's not appropriate. And then Migraine, if you're going control-y, is always good. And Combustion, I have seen people that are aggressive use that extremely well. It's a lot of good value there.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Nightmares Incarnate now with its ability to hit not just heroes, but minions, illusions, and pillars. Being at instant speed, or it's very, very good.
Yep. I mean, it's the anti-whisper or whatever you want to call it. But yeah, they have this great plan, and all of a sudden a pillar goes away or an illusion goes away, and it's sad times. But also just like hunting for power or getting that last 3 damage on somebody or something. I mean, it's so versatile. I can't say enough about it. So I'm going to put 3 of them in because I think it's the best card out there. I'm going to throw in 1 redirect for sure, and I'm going to add some spice. We'll go ahead and go with that Combustion, and then between Time Warp and Migraine, I just like having at least 1 Time Warp in my deck. This is one of those cards that I rarely put 3 of in my deck, but I really like to have 1 copy of it in. And I know there's probably some decks that like to have the full 3, but having the option once in a while. And also, they decline as you draw multiples of them. So that's one of the reasons that I keep them at a minimum.
Yeah, it's always good to have some movement effects, especially to sneakily win a control point that your opponent isn't thinking about. That's one of my favorite ways to use those cards.
Yep. And blue and green have all these movement effects that move other people. And so one of the nice things is Time Warp is sometimes a good counter to it, right? They sinkhole you out of the dome, you Time Warp back in, or vice versa, or something like that, right? Yep. And so red has a little bit more trouble getting there, but yellow has that nice ability to where even if they're not pushing other people around, they can control themselves better. And who knows, Time Warping somebody that 1 extra space, Kumaya, to get next to somebody to turn on Smokescreen or something like that, right? I mean, always those things, they do their math and like, hey, that's 6 squares away, you can't get there. But this can mess with that. Alrighty. So in the so I think this is a fine start to a deck. If I was doing it, I'd look at it and we'll tweak afterwards. But today we're probably just going to play this as is. But I think these are all fine cards, so I'm not at all sad about them. So now I'm going to go and add in 2 more heroes. And I think I want to do a split of 1 Kumuro and 1 Niptune hero.
Okay.
And I think we will go ahead and do the aggressive side first. So if I am looking for the aggressive red heroes in red-yellow, and I don't have to do red-yellow. We could do a red-green if we wanted to. I mean, Sakoshi and Akimo are great and aggressive. Yami's always been wonderful. I would not probably pick Mayuki for that, and I don't know that Hokusai has much combo here. I mean, he's always fine, but I've already got 1 tank. But I am a huge fan of Kichi. Kichi throwing out his marks is good because it's good with Shadris, and I get to do the prediction at the same time. So I think I'm just going to go with Kichi over a Yami, but either one of them makes a lot of sense.
No, but I think that's a great call, and it's always I think it's a good idea to be threatening a mage. Your opponent sees a mage across the board, and they at least have to think about it.
Yep. And if they bring a total control deck or something like that, then it's like, yeah, I'm just going to drop this guy down, and I don't care that the problem with mages is they're fragile, right? But if you don't have to worry about them being fragile, they are such good value. So on the other side, all the other red-yellow options are aggressive, so I could go with any of these guys. I'm feeling like doing one of the mages today, so I could have a double mage package and maybe take advantage of like that Soul Scream and some of the other psychic vampirism I've always found to be an interesting card.
Sure.
I think I'm going to go with Sethuru. So I'm going to do the real mage damage package, if you would.
Okay, I think right out of the box, Sethuru has always been one of my favorite characters. Just he being able to use those power cards and get some extra damage out of it. It's so fun.
Yep. So before we skip over all the zeros, we should look. And so Mind Palace, I think, has a place. Psychic Shield in an aggressive deck is fine. I'm not a huge fan, but I know other people are. Skytear Discharge also. But I do want to play a Psychic Vampirism or two. I don't know if 1 or 2 is right, but I'm going to go ahead and put 2 in because I'm going to try and abuse this ability, which is when the caster damages an enemy with an effect of a power card, heal the caster for the amount of damage dealt. We've already got Nightmares Incarnate in. We've got Twister of Souls and Windblast in. All kinds of those area of effect things are great because they all stack. So I mean, you've got a low level mage, and all of a sudden you can get a good Psychic Vampirism in. And it's like, yep, start over.
Yeah,
so,
I've seen Setharu easily heal 12 damage from playing a Psychic Vampirism into a Windblast, and it was pretty cool.
Yep. So I think that's it. Again, not a huge fan of zero cost cards in general, but I mean, your mileage may vary.
Yeah, I know you're going to upset our friend Clinton by not putting those Skytear discharges in. You know, he says that's a poor man's presence. So
he does, and we've got 2 mages in this case, so maybe it is right? I mean, that's a huge. That's like 3 or 4 damage there for free. So early on, it can really do a whopping. But I'm going to pass for now, and if we run out of cards to put in, maybe we'll go back and readjust that. All right, here's the Soul Screams. I think these guys combo well with Psychic Vampirism. They're a poor man's Windblast if you need to clear minions, but man, if you can get 2 or even 3 heroes in it next to a mage, that is a ton of damage that you can do from there. I think I'm going to throw in another Twister of Souls for the same reason. And then a Dragon Punch is not a power card. That's an attack action, so that wouldn't combo well. I think Unstoppable is fine here if I want another one, and I kind of do want 2 more 3s. Reave or Disrupt. I don't know. I haven't had much success with that. So I'm going to go with another Twister and then just do an Unstoppable to round us out here. Alrighty. So now I've got the minimum number of 3s that I want in a deck, even if it's aggressive. So looking through for more damage cards. Migraine is great. I do like redirects. I'll throw maybe another one of those in and a Migraine in to start with. The Combustion, fine. Blazing Edges for attacking. We're not going to try and abuse that too much. Let's go and look at the 1-drops that we have. Have I filled this guy up? I have 9, yes. So now we're over to Kichi.
Yeah, we know there's some good damage yellow cards with Shattermind out there.
Yeah, I think we're going to go for it, right? And I know, if I run into Psychic Shield, then that'll be sad, but I think sometimes you just don't play into it. I mean, you just play it and you try and out-card them, right?
Yep.
So, alrighty. What else do we have here at the 1? I love Quick Shot. I think a Clear Mind. That maybe even should have gone on the main guys. But one of the nice things is if you identify a card that you really want on the main guys and you only want one of, I can put 1 Clear Mind in this deck and 1 Clear Mind in this deck, and it's basically the same thing, right? So it's a way to get around those limitations of only being able to put 18 cards on the first 2 guys. We're not going to worry about barring the way. If you want to pillar me, that's fine. I do love an Exhaustion. For the same reasons, I'm going to put 1 in here and probably 1 on the other side. It's good aggressive or defensive. Release of Spirits has a similar thing, and that's a +2, which might be useful. And I just like having access to Quick Shot, even in an aggressive deck. It's a +2, and it can mess with lane math.
So before we move off this screen, what are your thoughts on the Doom and the ability to kind of mana burn a hero with Doom? What are your thoughts there?
I think if for aggressive decks that are trying to win on like 2 or 3, it is a really good card, right? But in general, what it does is it says, hey, it doesn't make them lose cards or anything like that. They get to play the card just the next round. But if there is no next round, then it's awesome, right? And so it's actually one of the more effective cards against my decks that tend to be control-y, that are just trying to get to round 3 and then hold off, and then like round 4 and stuff, my card advantage and everything will end up winning. So this thing, basically eats a whole round of mana sometimes of one of my guys. So, and it's got a +2, so you don't have a problem flipping it. So, and I mean, it's also got an anti-heal thing, which, you give a thing enough modes and eventually it's like, okay, these all add up.
Sure.
So I think in the right deck, it's amazing. I think in some decks, it's not amazing. And I think people just assume it's always amazing. So I am not as high on it maybe as other people, but I have to give it props. It has defeated me. It defeated me at the World Champions when Julio played it last year. So I am, can't say too much bad about it. Ooh, I do like having a swiftness access to that. Man, I like swiftness too much. I'm going to get rid of Release of Spirits, even for the low modifiers, just to have access to a swiftness. And I know most people play to the time glitch for the fast, but being able to do fast and then draw another card is too much value for me to pass up.
Yeah, I'm in that camp as well. I love the fact that it replaces itself. And the fact now that we get to keep an extra card going into the rounds, our hand size is now 7 after the first round. I give this even more value, the fact that it replaces itself.
So I'm looking at these 4 guys now, and I'm thinking if we get Obstinacy, if we get Double Kill, if we get Onslaught, if we get Hunting for Power, I would be very happy running all 4 of these guys for those types of things. So those are the victory conditions I'm looking for, and if like 2 of those show up, I'm pretty sure that I'm running these 4 guys is my plan.
Okay, so now is your thought process go to, so what if I see a left breach or a right breach or a tactician here?
And it's not or, it's more like and, right?
Yeah.
If I've got like breaches and tacticians and stuff, and it's just like, yeah, killing people is nice, but it's not going to win me any of these things. So it's, how am I going to actually win? So yes, so on the and most of these things have that dual thing, like either kill or these other push type objectives. So now I'm going to look more at those push objectives, and so we call it control. And so there's 2 ways to think about it. You control, just slow the game down and then eventually win through one of them, or it's a push objective. So if there's a way I can hyper push and get, breaches and stuff like that, like some of the green decks are able to do, that is certainly viable. So on that note, I think Mayuki is insane with these new rules because she's going to go around marking people and giving -1 attack. If somebody else can disarm that, she can keep minions from dying. She can also keep heroes from taking a lot of damage. I think she is built for those types of situations. So she's going to be my choice for today.
Yeah, it turns out -3 attack, 1 from Mayuki's ability and -2 from a disarm. And, stopping a minion kill is huge. I've experienced it with my Estrita and was very sad when it happened.
Right, because that's even 2, right?
Yep.
You didn't get the kill and you didn't get to spawn a guy. All right, and then in light of I'm trying to keep a little balance between red and yellow, we're going to go here, and man, so if it's control-y, I really do like Akuti or Ekrit. Maybe I'm going to go that way. I was thinking earlier just going Shafathi and keeping the red-yellow alive, but I've got these awesome Whispers of Niptune, and his ability is nice with the predict, but it's way better with more heroes. Whereas here, I can keep Shadris or Ekrit from moving fast. I can also bring a wind barrier down, like it's a free action almost, to be able to get that out there and be able to wind barrier when they don't expect you to. I think I'm going to go with one of these 2 guys and just not play blue cards.
I like it, and I think that's important to note, right? Like you can have a yellow-blue hero, and you don't have to play blue cards. And honestly, you don't even have to put blue or yellow cards in their deck. I think that's important to know as well. You can put whatever cards you want in here that maybe are going to be super helpful for your other heroes that are coming to the game, and not necessarily Ekrit.
Yep. And so I agree with you. I'm going to put no blue or yellow card or blue cards in this deck, except for I'm going to start with 1 presence.
I was going to say, you can't not play presence. It's too good.
Yeah, and so this is something that, having only 1 of, it's a surprise thing they might not expect or something like that. Having 3 is probably okay, but here I'm just going to put 1 in for the spice of it because I think it's funny if it comes up. Alrighty, so now we're doing control, and so here in this deck, I'm expecting us to probably go later. We're not doing an aggro push deck. We're doing a slower thing. So I really want to load up with a lot of 3-drops. So this is probably going to be more than 6 of them, and I'm going to start at those 3-drops areas. So Unstoppable, I mean, it's not the best card here, but it still works well with Kumaya. Getting across the board is fine. I think 3 Dragon Punches is totally reasonable. It's not as good as Windblast, but you can't have all that, and so this takes an extra action to do, but you still can kill 5 minions theoretically. Of these remaining cards, I'm gonna put 1 Refract is probably enough. I'm worried about putting 3 into my deck, and I mean, I've really tapped out on these things. Is there a blue 3-drop that I really want? A fun sudden distraction does not seem like the worst thing in the world. I'm going to throw 1 in. And again, if I never use it, it's fine. And Chasm's strong too. So I'm going to wimp out on my previous no blue thing and just take those cards. But we are going to put a Reven to round it out. So basically, Ekrit is bringing us 8 3s and a presence. So all about that control. And now, Mayuki. Let's go get stuff that makes Mayuki awesome. So I've been hearing ravings about Mayuki and the Strike Terror combo, so I want to try that out today. I'm going to go ahead and put all 3 of those in this deck. So just like you said with Disarm, it's good. Here we basically give you a -4 attack, so good luck at killing anything. Second Exhaustion sounds perfect. Mayuki can put a mark and a slow on somebody and then turn it into something else, so that seems great. I'll put 2 of those on there. And now I've already put 5 1-drops in here, so let's go and see if there's any control 2-drops that we might want. Ooh, another Time Warp. Seems good.
I think a Migraine and a Migraine or 2.
Oh,
here.
Migraine is much. Yeah. Let's put both those guys in. I think that's
the more you can disarm, I think, with Mayuki and her ability, the better here.
Yep, that is a true statement.
Yep, you're full up there.
I'm full.
You got room for one
more,
so you can throw in that redirect.
Let's go with the redirect. Just good modifier and everything. Alrighty. And so sometimes I build a deck with the outsider in mind, but a lot of times it comes down at the end to not knowing. So what does my deck care about? The extra worships I could get from the outsider are somewhat useful. I don't know, maybe not that good. Like a lot of them have to be done. Doing the mark isn't the worst. Getting the slow from Mayuki is pretty good. I'm a big fan of the Terror. I don't know if my deck's actually going to win the Dome that much, because I really want to do Mayuki or Kumaya stuff. And so I kind of would like to ignore the Dome if that's possible to stay in lanes. So I'm worried about giving the high impact guys like the Terror or the Silent Bastard the outsider. And then Dark Vigilante, against the right decks, it's useless, but I think that is also. So I'm going to go with Lord of the Ancestors or the Scourge. And the Scourge is interesting because it's easier to take down with Hunting for Power. You know what? I'm going to go ahead and grab the Scourge. It's a red guy. So I'm going to hit save. And so if this was really a thing I was doing and I wasn't just going to go play here, it's fine for now. But I would look at maybe moving some of these cards around or evening them out or thinking about lineups that I don't use. Right now, I basically have these 4 or these 4. But I'm sure there is some world where I do a Mayuki, Kichi, Kumaya, Shadris, right? And I'm leaning into the stuff. And if that's the case, then I've got to probably move over some of these 3s or do something else. But for today, I'm basically going to be sticking with those 4, so I don't have to care about that. And so I think we are probably good to go.
All right.
Do you have any last thoughts, Ian, before we end this part of the video?
No, I'm excited. I thank you for kind of walking us through this step. I hope for anybody watching, especially if you're a newer player, I hope this is helpful to you to start building decks. And, one of the things I would say, just don't be afraid to get in there and try things. I think sometimes as a new player, you feel like you have to build the perfect deck, where really, if you just jump in, throw in the cards that you like, throw in the cards that you think are cool, have cool effects, and try them out. And you may lose, and that's okay. You've learned from that step. You've learned how to use that card maybe a little bit better, but just get in there and try. One of the cool things about this deck builder is you can build a lot of decks, and you can try out a lot of things.
Super nice. I would also say, if you're very early on starting, what I did originally was I built with 6 characters, but I almost always ignored the last 2. I just didn't know enough about Skytear to know when I was swapping my characters. So to keep it simple, and basically what I ended up doing anyway, is just pick 4 characters, build those 4, leave the other 2 spots blank, or put people in there that you have no intention of using. Don't even think about what those cards are, right?
Yep.
Play your deck, a handful of times, and get the feel for it. And then you'll start saying, oh, I have problems when they have breaches. Let me build some characters that help against breaches. Or, oh, I have problems with hunting for power. Maybe that'll be my solution. Or I have a real problem with the Talot people. And so you'll learn that after the first couple games. But if it's your first time, build 4 characters you like, build a deck for them. Then you don't have to care at all where the cards are. Because with 4 guys, you're always bringing them. It doesn't matter. You don't have to worry about any of that stuff. I think it keeps it simple.
Yep, I agree. Well, for everybody watching this video, if you are interested in watching the gameplay where Eric is going to play a game with this deck, he's going to play it open-handed. Be on the lookout on the YouTube channel for Skytear. Also be watching the Discord, and we will post when we're going to be airing that game. And I think it's going to be a lot of fun. So again, thank you, Eric, for letting us step into your brain for a minute as we watch the wheels turn as you build these decks.
Thank you for doing this, Ian.
All right, everybody have a wonderful evening.